The wheel. It has paved the path to so many inventions that we take for granted, like the car, electricity, and many other things. The wheel is the most important invention ever and has made way for so many indescribably incredible things. But it's a little more complicated, and to fully understand it, we have to go a little further back. To fully understand the wheel, we have to go back. Now I know what you're thinking. How far back? Like the beginning of humanity? I mean further back. Not all the way back, though. The Big Bang has not much to do with our story. Our story starts at the dying and exploding of stars. Our sun is a star. It is currently burning hydrogen or helium. Not quite yet burning lithium. Stars burn all of the elements, and once they get to iron, they explode or die. Just kind of fizzle out. When they explode, all of these elements are launched into the world. The universe. And one of them is carbon. Carbon is probably the most important element in the entire universe. Carbon is also the cornerstone to all of the materials we use to make wheels. It's the cornerstone to many stones and clay and polybutadiene rubber and wood. Carbon is the cornerstone to all complex molecular structures. So 94 of our 118 elements came together to form our beautiful Earth. By accreting to form our Earth, they made different layers, so some of them are deeper because they're heavier. So it's harder for us to excavate them. Carbon, our little friend carbon that you remember, is not one of those. So it bonded with other chemicals to form our materials. Around 500 million years later, life began to form. And 400 million years ago, we started to see trees, our wonderful trees that produce our wood. We also, around 250,000 years ago, began to see us. Human beings were formed. They came into this wonderful place we call Earth. And I know what you're thinking. Okay, we've gotten into cavemen. The wheel is not far after, because it was invented by, like, Fred Flintstone or something. No. We are getting into the wheel very shortly. But please remember, it was not Fred Flintstone. That is wrong. was not a caveman, and it did not occur for thousands of years. So, if the cavemen didn't invent the wheel, then who did? Well, an exact person isn't really known at this point. But we know where and when. It was around 5,500 years ago in Sumer. Now, Sumer is in southern Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia, or the Fertile Crescent, is right in between the Tigris and Euphrates River. So it's a perfect little spot for agriculture to begin. They got floods very frequently, which gave them very fertile land, thus the Fertile Crescent. Now I know what you're thinking. Okay, so now they're gonna get into like chariots and wheelbarrows and like stuff to make it move. No, the first wheel was in fact a dry clay wheel made for pottery. It was a potter's wheel. And that was what it was used for a very, very long time. Until the Greeks came along. Greece saw this wheel, and being the intellectual nation they were, invented the wheelbarrow. The wheelbarrow was one of the most important inventions in history, because that was the first time the wheel was used for moving something. And it changed all inventions for some time. The wheelbarrow is a wheel on an axle. I didn't get into axles yet. So, an axle is what makes a wheel useful. Without an axle, it's really quite useless. So, the axle is how you can attach stuff to it. So you don't just have this round thing with a hole in it that rolls, and is also the reason why no wheels exist in nature, because no axles exist in nature. You can't attach things to a wheel without an axle, thus it would make it impossible to move things. And if you're trying to flatten something out, it's just not practical. It's more practical to drop a rock on the thing than to roll it over with a wheel. It takes more work to roll it over with a wheel. When you don't have an axle, that is. So like I said, the wheelbarrow consists of a wheel on an axle, a barrel, and two handles, one on each side. So there's only one wheel, so you can pick it up, but you still carry the weight. It just makes it easier to move the weight. Now, the Romans saw how they did this before they conquered Greece. The Romans saw how they used these wheels to move things with their wheelbarrows. So, they decided, instead of we move things, how about things move us? And that's where you got the chariot. The chariot was the first time a wheel was used for moving people. In fact, it was two wheels. And very revolutionary. Not as revolutionary as the wheelbarrow, but still very important. Now, the wheel was improved in use. it went from the chariot to the wagon to other things like a wagon, but that was just kind of an improvement upon the chariot. So really, there's no real new uses for the wheel until the modern revolution. The modern revolution is when the big money and superpowers in the world went from agrarian places to industrial places. Places that produce things quicker, faster, and with ease. One of the things that the Industrial Revolution made was the generator in 1831. The generator has two wheels, a big wheel and a small wheel, and two axles. And this one axle, the one connected to the big wheel, spins slowly, spinning the big wheel slowly. The big wheel spins slowly and is connected to the small wheel. And since this big wheel is so much bigger than the small wheel can't keep up with the big wheel at that same pace, and it starts spinning fast. Thus spinning the axle fast, and there's magnets in the axle which produce kinetic energy. And that kinetic energy is harvested. So, that was one of the most important uses for the wheel, because that was when it was first used for energy. After that comes the water wheel. It was already invented, but not really for energy. It is more invented for productiveness. And the windmill. The windmill, once again, was not really used for energy until this point. So, after that was the tire. Okay, so the tire was invented by Robert William Thomson in 1845. The tire has a metal rim, so it's more durable, a rubber casing, and a very tightly packed air filling. The reason it's rubber is because rubber has give, and that give means it can turn better. It also can have grids that last longer, which also give it better traction for better turning. This tire and most other tires are made out of polybutadiene rubber, which is a very durable rubber, pretty much only used for tires. You're not really going to see it anywhere else. Now, the tire is more effective than the wheel, because when you have a wheel, it's not made out of rubber, so it has no give, and the treads wear out faster. So then, when the wheel turns, the car doesn't turn. You slide into another car or a building or something like that, and you die. And that's never fun. Now, the wheel was invented by Robert William Thomson, like I mentioned, but it wasn't really noticed until January 29th, 1886, when Carl Benz released the first car. So, on January 29, 1886, Carl Benz released Automobile. This automobile was the first time that a tire was debuted, thus giving Carl Benz most of the credit for that tire. This automobile of his changed the world of transportation forever, making way for a car, a minivan, a regular van, a truck, a motorcycle, everything that is anything like this, and gave way to so much more. So, wheels. You still see them everywhere. We still use wheelbarrows, and you see them on your fans. Electric fans use wheels to move. You see them everywhere. In your clocks, they use gears, which is just a type of wheel when you think about it. It's on an axle, it's circular, and it spins. It's a wheel. You still see them everywhere, and the things you don't see them in, wheels are definitely used in transporting them, and most likely in producing them. Wheels are everywhere and in everything, which is why it is considered the most important invention of all time. And the most important invention was not invented by Fred Flintstone.